don't get it confused and think, well, this guy runs Black Widow like this, or she runs Iron Man like this, or he runs Thor like this. Those are those characters. We not talking about that. We talking about the Hulk. Hulk smash, and that's what this build is about. Hey everybody, what's going on? What's happening? It's your man Apex, and today I'm going to be talking to you about my World War Hulk build. There's a lot of builds out there. A lot of people have different Avengers that they favor. Me, I favor the Hulk. I'm kind of biased to the Hulk. Hulk does a lot of damage, and I'm going to show you how to run with him if you don't know, but you want to know how to use the Hulk, okay? This build focuses primarily on heavy damage and invulnerability and defense, and those are a function of the build perks. Right, so for our melee gear, I'm going to be using this monstrous coagulator. All right, the perks that I have on this right now are increased critical attack damage when using enemies as a weapon by 115%. So that means anytime you grab an enemy and you're swinging them around, hitting them, you got a 115% buff on the critical attacks. Then next I have the Gamma Infuser, which is power attacks deal gamma damage, emitting a localized burst of gamma radiation on impact. So that means you're going to be slamming that gamma radiation into the enemies on top of some other stuff that you're going to be doing. The support is rage support, is 18.8% increase heroic rate charge when rage is active. And that's going to be another thing that's really important, that you're getting your heroics back as quickly as possible. The next one that I have is the Adapt Gravitation Explosion Enhancer. The first perk on this is the Adapt Gravitation Explosion. That's 27% chance hitting an enemy with a range critical attack triggers an anti-gravity field that causes nearby enemies to float in the air. The next perk on there is the Gamma Synapse Booster, and that small debris attacks deal gamma damage. Projectiles are infused with excess gamma radiation. So again, we're adding some more gamma radiation in there. And that's the Mighty Impulse is the last, and that's 13.7 increased stun damage from power attacks. If you don't know, power attacks are what allow you to do the finishers. I'm sorry, the stun is what allows you to do those finishers that you see. And so when you're stunning the enemies, you're going to be getting those finishers, which in turn are going to be giving you back a huge amount of willpower or health for this build. So every time you do a finisher, boom, you're going to be getting back massive amounts of health. The next piece is my defensive piece, which is what really helps this build in terms of survivability. And this is the reactive protection component. The first perk is the reactive protection, which is 27.4% chance taking damage, grants a defense buff. The courageous inspiration, which is it grants a willpower burst when critically injured. And then finally, the proximity armored when in proximity to other teammates. All right. When you see the video, what you're going to notice, I'm going to try to make sure I edit in, as the Hulk is fighting, you're going to see all of the buffs on the side, which are what gives this build its survivability. You might look at it and say it's got 1,000 defense, and some people are running with 1,500 or way higher than that, but they're hitting people with marshmallows. All right, you're going to see how hard this build hits, and then you're going to see the survivability. There are some other pieces that can go in here in terms of invulnerability, and also the what is it called? It's called the Jarvis barrier. Some of those are actually really, really good as well, and I don't knock those at all. But what's going to happen is this build is going to constantly be proccing defensive and vulnerability buffs. And the major secret weapon in this is a Courageous Inspiration, which says right there that it grants a willpower burst when critically injured. So that's boom, when you get hit and you're about to die, you'll hear the sound that kind of sounds like you're going down, and then you'll have a bunch of health. And that's one of the things that gives this build its survivability. Finally, here we have the heavy Quake stimulator. Let me move this back here. I got some drift. The heavy Quake is 17.5% increased stun damage from heavy combo finishers, and that is what is going to help continue to get those finishers that you can do on the enemies, which in turn is going to continue to feed your willpower, aka your health. Critical buff is 29.2% chance takedowns grant a damage buff. So not only does this build give you a huge bonus in your health if you do a takedown, it also is going to give you a damage buff when you do the takedowns. Then finally, the Rampage Invulnerability, and that is defeat 5 enemies in rapid succession to grant an invulnerability buff. So potentially you could be running around in this build with 2 or 3 defensive buffs active, a damage buff active, and an invulnerability buff active. For me, it's one of the most enjoyable builds that I put together so far, and I'm trying to get it up to where I want it to be. Now, in terms of my artifacts, I'm using anything that is just giving me buffs to my damage. That's all I want. If it's not giving me an increase in my damage, I'm not using it. I think this one is gravitation resistance, and that stops you from being hurt by the little gravitational fields. Lightweight breakers is 11.3% chance increased damage from light combo finishers. And then the gravitation resistance here, so you're not getting slammed into the ground and getting damaged. And then of course for my major artifact, I'm using the Tactagon, which is routed, which is 11.7% increased damage on enemies affected by any status effect. So that is why I'm really focused on making sure I have as much gamma radiation flowing around as possible. Exploit is 11.7% increase status damage on all attacks. So that means that your status effect, aka the gamma radiation, is going to also be having increased damage. And then the quell at the end is you simultaneously press L3 and R3 to trigger an explosion that deals exploit damage on enemies affected by any status and increases all status damage against any unaffected enemies hit. My stats up here, my melee is at roughly 2700. My defense is at just over 1000. My range rating is 736, and my heroic rating is 1005. Don't let anybody like throw you off when they say, oh well, my heroic rating is 3000. Well, they're using the Thor, or they're using another character. This build is specific to the Hulk, so don't get it confused and think, well, this guy runs Black Widow like this, or she runs Iron Man like this, or he runs Thor like this. Those are those characters. We not talking about that. We talking about the Hulk. Hulk smash, and that's what this build is about. I'm going to show you some gameplay. I hope you enjoy it. Please let me know what you think in the comments below.
Code verification entered
Some players say the Hulk is the worst to play in this Marvel Avengers. I respect their opinion, but I disagree. Bro, I definitely disagree. Somebody was telling me. Just look at this, man. For anyone that says Hulk, says something bad about the Hulk, man. Look, they all dead.
Got you slipping, I'ma let it go, and that's how he got clapped, and that's a wrap. Shout out Merlin's finest, you catch bodies, we the same. I just extended the clip, and I'm about to let it flame. Bang with the set, we don't have regrets. I won't waste no ammo, I make sure I got him, then I hit his neck, yo.
Well done, that squad member has been neutralized.
Yeah, Thor, you. Ooh. Oh God. I need this guy to like freaking get the lasers, bro.
Shake the fake.